Thank you to our friends at refreps for their support of the From A to Zebra podcast. The full library of podcast episodes is now available at refreps.com under the resources page. And now, Season 3, Episode 9, Letter I, Integrity. Join host Dana Pappas with special guest Robert Smith on the From A to Zebra podcast.
Welcome back to the From A to Zebra podcast. I'm Dana Pappas. My co-host Nate Acosta is out flying the friendly skies, so I'm here with our guest. We're going to have a one-on-one conversation that I'm very much looking forward to. On this episode, we're talking about the letter I, and we're discussing the topic of integrity, which is one of the most important character traits of officials in all sports and at all levels. Our guest is a current football official in the Big Ten Conference and a high school boys and girls basketball official in the state of Iowa. He has worked more than a dozen NCAA bowl games, including 2 national championships games, and is the past chairman of the National Association of Sports Officials Board of Directors. On top of that, as if that isn't enough, our guest was inducted into the Iowa High School Athletic Association Officials Hall of Fame in 2014 and the Iowa Girls Coaches Association Basketball Hall of Fame in 2018. He was also named the NFHS Boys and Girls Basketball Official of the Year in the state of Iowa. It's with great pride that I introduce my friend, somebody I was really honored to serve with on the NASO board when he was our chair at the time, which was awesome. Did a great job with that and really enjoyed getting to know him and excited about connecting with him this evening. I was telling him offline, these are selfish sometimes because it gives me the opportunity to reconnect with people who I haven't seen in a while. Robert Smith, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Dana. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. And thanks for being a great friend. I really do
Absolutely.
appreciate you. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so good to see you, and really do miss seeing you at the board. We had our meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I was thinking of you, and I was excited because I knew I was going to get to see you on the show. So it was a good little thing to look forward to. So before we jump into our topic of the day, we really want to talk about your journey. Can you tell us how and why you started officiating, and what was your path to where you are now?
Yeah, well, thank you. That's a great question. I tell people all the time, it wasn't even on the radar. I hadn't even thought about being an official. And there was this gentleman by the name of Bill Kelsey, very good friend. Lost him about 2-3 years ago. Bill was in his 90s. Bill was a big Hawkeye football fan. His wife, Jan, and my mother-in-law, we worked together at elementary school. And so I got to meet them early in my career and as a football player at the University of Iowa. And so one year, his son named Kevin got a job in Des Moines, Iowa, and had to move. Bill had his own high school football crew. He reached out to me and says, "Hey, Robert, are you interested? And love to have you on my football crew." And I'm like, "Football crew to do what?" He said, "Well, to be an official." I'm like, "Man, I don't know anything about officiating." He said, "No, I think you could do this because you played the game, you understand it." My daughter at the time was 6 months old. That's how I know I've been officiating 35 and a half years because she's turning 36. And I figured, okay, I went out and they gave me like $75-$80 to a JV varsity game at East Buchanan here in Iowa, a little small town. And I'm like, man, I could, buy some formula, milk, and Pampers. And
Absolutely.
that's kind of how I got into it. And then, man, I did a few more nights here, there, fell in love with it. And I've been doing it ever since. And that's how I got introduced to officiating because of Bill Kelsey. A guy reached out to me. I didn't know anything, didn't know nobody who did officiating. And I've been helping recruit officials and been in the business for 35 years. And I'll always be grateful to Bill. And I got a chance to talk about him and the Referee magazine years ago. That's how I got in. And I stayed in and been blessed to do that for 35 and a half years.
So you started at the middle school, high school level, similar to most people's stories when they go to the next level. How'd you break into the Big Ten? What was that path for you? Because not everybody's path is the same. We know that.
Right. Well, so what ended up happening, I was with Bill's crew for about 3 or 4 years. It was an older crew. And then I got on a crew with a guy by the name of Chuck Britton. And Chuck Britton, that was a younger crew. They were experienced. They had worked a couple of state championships. And then the state of Iowa went to 5 accrue. It went from 4 to 5. And so Chuck reached out and says, hey, and we know you know how to run. We'd like for you to come and work with our crew as a back judge. And so I got on that crew. All I had to do was not screw things up because they were already good. And then I got exposed to, the people, gentleman by the name of Rick Wilcolt in the Iowa High School Athletic Association. And then once I kind of met him and was on the crew with Britt and got to work some championship games, 3A, 2A. And then a couple of those guys were working college football on Saturdays in the Iowa Conference in Division III. So of course, I'm listening, and then I applied into the Division III conference, and actually 10 years of officiating. That 10th year, I got hired into the Big Ten by Mr. Dave Prairie in 2001, 2002, and been on that great journey in the Big Ten conference ever since.
That's fantastic. So you kind of alluded to it. So in addition to officiating, you were a standout football player at the University of Iowa. And I had heard you tell the story when you were on the NASO board that really, really touched me. You've told the story of why you chose to be a Hawkeye. And yeah, like I said, it hits me in the heartstrings every time. Can you share that story with our audience? Because I just think it's so special.
Yeah, you just never know. And I work with a lot of young people, and I tell people, you never know who's going to come into your life. You just don't know. So growing up in Texas, I was born and raised in Dallas, Texas, where I'm from. So, one of my goals, obviously, was to be a professional athlete as a kid. A lot of kids, particularly from urban school districts and urban communities, want to play pro something. And football was one of them. And I was fortunate enough, Dana, that by the time I got in middle school, I was pretty, people saw, oh, this guy's got talent. He's got a chance to play. And I was fortunate, Oklahoma, the University of Texas were recruiting me. Fred Akers was the head coach of Texas. Barry Switzer was the head coach at Oklahoma. All my homeboys, everybody like, man, yeah, where you going? I'm thinking probably it's going to be Texas. In 1981, January 1st, I'm looking through TV trying to find either Texas or OU in a bowl game, and I see the University of Iowa playing the University of Washington. And there was this brother punting, black guy named Reggie Roby, and I'll never forget it.
Reggie Roby,
And I was like,
Miami Dolphins.
yes, see, okay, he's from Waterloo, where I live
I
at.
had no idea.
Yes. So
Okay.
I see that on TV, and I'm like, man, a brother punting. Brothers don't punt. I had never seen a black guy punting a football. So and he was like 6'5", poof. So I was like, man, I had never seen it. So I flipped the TV and go find Texas OU. And then I get a letter in the mail like 2-3 months later from the University of Iowa. And I almost threw it away because I didn't know anything about Iowa, but what I remember about Iowa was Reggie Roby. I'm like, man, that's where the brother was punting for Iowa. Yeah, so I'm like, what are the chances? I open up the letter. There's a personal letter from Hayden Fry. It was different. He wasn't talking about, you're playing. It was about life. It just was different. So I kept the letter, didn't throw it away. Long story short, when it came time to kind of doing a little research, he had that Southern accent because he was from Texas. He had coached in Texas at Southern Methodist University, at Northwestern. And so I remember asking my mom, like the day or two before I was announced, Mom, what should I do? My mom, she retired as a custodian. She had never gone to college. And I'll never forget, my mom says, do you want to play for an institution or do you want to play for the man? And that always stuck with me. And it kind of went over my head. I'm 17, 18 years old. Well, what I found out about Coach Fry is that in 1964, the actual year I was born, 64, 65, I found out and learned that Coach Fry gave the first black kid a scholarship in the Southwest Conference. And that gentleman's name was Jerry LeVice. And all of a sudden, I started finding out that he had done something back in the 1960s that no other coach was willing to do, and that was take a chance on challenging the administration that he wanted to give a kid a scholarship no matter what his race was. And so that's what my mother really was referring to when she says, do you want to play for the institution or do you want to play for the man? And then I went to bed and I thought about it, prayed about it, and then I went to school. Everybody was waiting on my announcement, and I says, I'm going to play for Coach Hayden Fry at the University of Iowa. And people like, man, are you crazy? What are you doing? I mean, what? It's just something settled well to go play for Coach Fry. And that's how I got to Iowa. I got to Iowa because I wanted to play for somebody who was willing to do something for somebody who looked like me at a time that it wasn't very popular. And then, of course, Hayden Fry and Jerry Levice, they were both inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame together. So I take a lot of pride. And I was the first kid he recruited from Texas to come play at Iowa.
Wow.
And then I later learned that Coach Don Patterson, who was actually recruiting me and recruited that area, Coach Fry has says, when we do go back to Texas, I want to get the right kid, the kid like Jerry Levice. And so it's, that always touches me when I talk about that story, because I later found out that that's how he felt about me, that he needed to get the right kid. And then, of course, I started recruiting other kids from Texas, and a lot of kids came. But I was the first one he recruited. And I came because from a historical perspective, he did something in 1965 at Southern Methodist University. And I'm so glad I came to Iowa. Obviously, met my wife, and I've lived in Iowa ever since and never left.
And I appreciate you sharing that story. And obviously, I already had heard it. Didn't know the Reggie Roby thing, though. That was interesting. But I think one of the reasons when I was thinking of a topic for you about integrity, listening to you talk about Coach Fry, there's so much integrity within that story. Hearing how you, as a 17, 18-year-old young man, really thought about the history and what he had done and how significant that was for you. And everybody's expecting you to go Texas Orange or Crimson and Cream, and then you threw everybody off and picked Iowa. But the reason that you did it was so principled. And, at that age, especially, you're not thinking, you're thinking about those big games and, Red River rivalry and all of those things. And then for you to be like, wait a second, here's a man who did something special. And now I want to go play for that person because of his character and the man that he was and everything. So I think that that's just such a great story. And I'm so glad that you're willing to share that, because I get goosebumps every time you tell it. So
Well, thank you. Yeah, hey, I'm telling you, and my mom she knew how to make me think about what was important. And I think her question to me really made me do some soul searching, and I just came to that's what I wanted to do, and I'm glad I did it. It was a great experience.
she didn't tell you what to do. She just gave you a little nugget and let you make your own decision, which is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of state, we're not quite to the topic of the day, but when you're not officiating, you're the executive director of the University of Northern Iowa's Center for Urban Education. Can you tell us about the work you do at the center and how maybe it helps you as an official?
Well, we work with young people, first generation, low income families and kids. And what we do is talk about the value of education. So I work and oversee our TRIO programs. And TRIO programs are actually programs that started back in 1964-65. And there was programs that President Lyndon B. Johnson, signed and law that these TRIO programs would help first generation low income families and kids. So I've been in the business for it'd be 38 years in September,
Wow, that's
working with,
amazing.
yeah, I mean, I've been very fortunate, and I've been here at the University of Northern Iowa for 38 years and working with helping kids and families, filling out financial aid, researching scholarships, helping them find universities and community colleges, not just the University of Northern Iowa, but any college that just helping young people and families understand the value of education. So, it's not been a job, man. It's really been a passion of mine. And so, and that's being in this business, working with young people, understanding the importance of being a role model, doing the right things, being in the right places. I've always had those eyes always watching me.
Right.
When you're working with these kids and these families in a community like Waterloo and Cedar Falls, people are always watching you. I served on the school board. I served on the county board of supervisors. I've been active in our community. And so that comes with a responsibility. And I always tell these young guys, and particularly young Black males, I tell them, you have to carry the burden. It's okay. It's okay to carry a burden of responsibilities because people carried that responsibilities for you. And so I've always tried to live that way in terms of in the work I do, my daily life is carrying that burden. And when I say burden, I mean, hey, people paid the price for me to have the opportunities that I've had. People trusted me and expected me to do the right thing. So I've always tried to not just talk that game, but live that game. And that's one of the things officiating really I love officiating because officiating keeps you in that water. It keeps people's eyes on you. And so it keeps you understanding the value of doing the right thing and treating people the right way. And so that's what I've done for 38 years. I plan to work a few more years, but my work it's been all about trying to do the right things for young people and families. And I've been very blessed to be here at the University of Northern Iowa Center for Urban Education.
And Robert, I love the passion that you have both for your work and your officiating. And there's so many, just in talking to you over the years, just all of the intersections that happen between your job and your officiating life and your personal life. And everything that you do is that servant leadership. And you do such a great job of serving the young people, whether it's the athletes, when you're doing high school basketball or when you're doing college football, the students that are at your school, and being that role model and showing them what's possible. And I think that that's so important is being able to do that. Always hearing that passion that you have. I think you and I are very similar in the sense of if you love what you do, you've never worked a day in your life. And I think that that's special when you find that thing that really is kind of your calling and you're able to, you go to work every day and you're just happy to be there because you want to help. Like you want people to have opportunity. You want to be able to teach them life lessons and do all of the things that are so important as they become, go into the workforce and do all of the things, becoming parents and everything else that's involved with adulthood. And your passion is always so contagious. And I just appreciate hearing what it is that you do. I did not realize you had been at University of Northern Iowa that long. That's amazing. You do everything for long term, and I love that. So
Hey,
there's no fly by night for you. You're on it. So
yeah.
appreciate that insight as well. So we're going to jump now into the topic of integrity. Can you tell us what having integrity means to you as it relates to officiating?
Well, I mean, what it means to me, I mean, people love their sports. And the one thing what's important to all of us who love sports is that the people behind the scenes who's making things go, who's enforcing the rules, who's doing all of the work. I tell people all the time, I have to sometimes think about what's more focused, athlete or officiating. I
Right.
mean, because you're studying films, you're working out, you're studying the rules. That's what I love about officiating because you have to be focused. Because our fans, our citizens, people are expecting the game to be officiated fairly and officiated for what's good for the game and for their kids. So to me, as an official, it's almost like being in public life. People know you. They see you on TV. When you say I'm an official, there's that underlying respect they have because they know not a lot of people can do what we do, Dana. This is not easy.
It is not.
But if you love it, you don't care. You're willing to do what you have to do. And so when I want people to understand when I think of integrity is I want people to know when they see me walk on the field, when they see me walk on the court, or when they see me, one of the best compliments I ever got, it was a basketball coach one night, and they were the visiting team, and it was a big game. in that conference. And the coach just looked at me and says, "Hey, I'm glad to see you." First, I didn't know what he was. He said, "Well, I'm on the road. So I know whatever the outcome of a game, I can live with it." I mean,
That's a huge
that
compliment.
that was a compliment to me. If you knew this coach, you know what I'm talking about. Uh, but he just felt like, I thought it was important to have a reputation that it doesn't matter where I work my game, doesn't matter how big the crowd is. I'm going to do everything I can. Like I told one coach one time, Robert, you're just terrible. You're terrible. I said, as long as I'm terrible on both ends, I'm okay. But if you're telling me I'm terrible on just one end, I got a problem with you. What you say. I want to be bad for both teams. And we kind of laughed about it, and he just chuckled with it. But integrity for me in officiating, it's really helped me maintain that carrying that burden. Officiating, I just added the burden. And when I say burden, I mean, I want to be good. I've never smoked. I've never drank. I don't go to clubs. I'm not out in places. I don't have Facebook. I don't have Twitter account. I have a LinkedIn, a business account.
For sure.
But, I've always tried to tell young people, if you're going to have social media, I get it. It's a part of it. But what you post, what you say matters.
And it's with you forever.
It will be with you forever. And so integrity to me is, as they say, doing what's right when nobody's looking.
Absolutely.
That's really what integrity means to me. It's just respecting people, treat people honestly the way I want to be treated, and be a good listener. And I found that the better I am at listening, the better opportunity I have. I may not always agree, but I think it's important to try to understand. And so we talked about this when we were on the board together, NASO board, Dana. I want people to know about officiating because it's not for everybody. When I go out and recruit students or people to officiate, women, people of color, non-white men, I don't care. I want to get people in the business because if you love officiating, you have something for the rest of your life that you're going to meet some of the greatest people. So I've always wanted to introduce people to officiating because my love for it, not for any other reason. Wasn't exposed to officiating. Officiating was never in my path. And so I know sometimes the way people get into officiating is people have to introduce them to the business. And so the more people understand that integrity matters in this business, I tell people all the time, you want your kids, you want people to get involved into officiating because officiating holds you to a standard. And that standard will benefit you for the rest of your life. And God is my witness, officiating has helped me to make sure I maintain that high integrity because I know people are always watching. Families, mothers say, "Hey, did you referee? You refereed my game, or I saw you on TV." Whoa. Hey, so people have grown now that I refereed 30 years ago. So that's what officiating will do for you. People will never forget you. And what do you want them to remember about you?
And as officials, you play such an important role. And I think that oftentimes it's hard to really understand that impact that you're having. If you're a high school official somewhere, when you get approached by somebody that you officiated their game, 5 years ago and they remember you, and that's
Right.
just like, man, I must have done things the right way. And I just hear story after story about that when really for an official, you're just going out there because you love it and you're doing it because you want to give back and you want to give to a game that you loved and all of those things. But then when you realize, especially like at our level, at the high school level, you realize that you are part of that extension of the classroom. You're part of the formative years for those student athletes, and they appreciate you. They may not say it in that moment, but they might see you 10 years from now in a grocery store and be like, "Man, you called my state championship game or you called my first middle
Right.
school game." And those memories are so important. And you're right. Even when you think, "Hey, I'm just out there officiating," people know you. You are a public figure, like whether you want to be or not, you absolutely are. And especially in small towns, which are all over the
Exactly.
United States, but it's special. And you and I have talked about how special it is. And integrity is definitely at the center of everything that we do.
And thank you, Dana, for what you do and being a leader at the national level for the high schools all over the country. Because, I go in these schools and I hear people acknowledging officials and thanking officials before the game. And that comes from organizations like, what you lead, NASO. That matters to young officials when they hear that. When all of a sudden before the game, the announcer is saying, hey, let's give the officials applaud. Now it only lasts for about, a few minutes, and then
Once
all of a sudden,
the ball
yeah,
goes up, they've forgotten all about it.
exactly. But it matters. It matters. And so I admire you and thank you for the work you do in NASO, because people don't know unless they run into people like us who've been associated with these organizations, that they need to know that there are organizations out there advocating for you and doing the work to make sure this isn't, you know, something you're doing that people really care about and respect. So, I want to just, give a shout out to you and kudos to you and you guys' organization for what you do. When I didn't know for years when I was officiating that these organizations was out there advocating for something I care about a lot. So yeah,
Well,
thank you.
oh no, I tell people all the time it's an honor to do what I do. There's not another group of people in this world I would rather be able to work for and support and advocate for and be an ear or be a voice or whatever is needed, because I have the privilege of knowing how special officials are and what good people they are. So to be able to be even a small part of their journey and hopefully making things a little bit better for them, like I'm always gonna be all in, and it's such an honor to do that and then meet people like you and, have these lifelong friendships and people who I can lean on and ask for advice and, people
Right.
that are in Big Ten or in the NFL where I can pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, I'm really having a hard time with this. What do you think?" And I've never had anybody be like, "Yeah, I don't have time. You're just high school." It's never been that. It's always a welcoming ear, a hug when I need it. It's just such a special group, and I'm just honored to be a small part of it. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So integrity, obviously, it's something that not only applies to each individual official, but also to the entire officiating community. While integrity is comprised of honesty, consistency, and accountability, what are some other components of integrity of officials?
Well, I think personal life. I mean, in your personal life, family. Family is crucial, important, because you and I both know this. I have to thank my wife and my kids, uh, because I'm on the road weekends. I was gone all those years. Nights I'm gone. Uh, you need family support. You need the people who are important to you in your life to be there and understand what you do, and share some of that success and that journey with them, because it's hard to work at the level I've been able to work at in the Big Ten. This will be 25 years for me. It's you don't get to work 25 years without support from your family, uh, and making sure you're involving them at people that different levels for different families. But it's like your husband. He's there for you. He's there supporting you. All of us who've been in this business know how much time goes into this. So that's the one thing I tell people all the time. If you get on this journey, if you start moving up, if you start inspiring to move to a different level, it's going to take support from your family, or it's going to take support from whoever that important person is in your life, because it's a journey.
It
It's
is.
it's a journey, and you're going to meet a lot of people. You're going to be, whether it's local, traveling, nights away from home. I just think that is so crucial and important. Part of that integrity, that you must take care of your family and make sure that whatever that looks like to you, that they're a part of it, and make sure they understand what that means to you.
That's such a great answer, and, we used to talk quite a bit when I was still in the New Mexico state office. I would tell officials all the time, I'd be like, "Hey, at the end of the season, make sure you do something nice for your family. Like, take a little bit of your check and go out to dinner, do something special for your spouse," wherever the case may be, because, if you're out on the road, there's somebody at home who's holding things down for you, and it even extends to, like, your employer. That person who's letting you take off work early on Fridays to get to your game, make sure they know that they're appreciated, because it it's that whole takes a village kind of thing. It doesn't officiate as well, because you've gotta have that support from so many different people to be successful and to have the time to give, to give back to the game. And, your journey, you've been doing it for a long time and you've got a wife and kids who have been part of that and getting them involved in it. And, they kind of have to be all in or else it makes it a really rocky road. So, making sure that when it's family time, it's family time. Like you got to carve that out and make sure that it's uninterrupted because you know how many nights you're away and you know that you're flying in and out and doing all the all the travel. So outstanding answer. I love that. And you mentioned this. We know integrity is often defined as doing the right thing even when no one's watching. In officiating, especially at the collegiate level, it seems like eyes are on officials at all times. How difficult is it to deal with the scrutiny that officials are under now more than ever in the age of technology, social media, all the angles and all the eyes everywhere? How difficult is that for you?
Well, as far as social media, for me, it's easy because I don't have
You're
it.
not on
So
it.
I stay off of it, but it is. It's a tough because people, man, they can screenshot something and man, it's out there, tweet out there. And I think the other thing too, Dane, I want to point out at this level, once you get to the Division 1, you get certain levels, and obviously at the pro levels at all sports, there's background checks. They're going to dig into your background. They want to know what kind of people they're putting out there. Credit check. They want to know, do you have issues financially? We're talking about integrity. I mean, this business is going to make sure.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not just going to take your word for it. It wants to have a better understanding of what's in your background. Well, how are you treating people? Have you been arrested? All of that. That's part of the journey.
It is.
And you have to understand that there's a high bar, that if you're going to officiate at a pro level or at the college NCAA level, they expect you to be a good citizen. They have some expectations of you. You can't just say I have integrity, that
A good
I'm a good
person.
person. That's okay. Well, we need you to give us permission to go and
Fill out this
dig
form.
dig a little bit to find out, if some of that, what does it look like? So that's why, when we talk about integrity, man, you have to not just what people see, it's what people don't see.
True.
And I think people think that as long as you don't see me doing nothing wrong, as long as I look like I'm doing everything right, eventually, if you're not doing it right behind closed doors, it's gonna get out there. In particular today with social media, with gambling and and all of those things that you just gotta stay away from. And that's why I've always said officiating, you know, has helped me understand and continue to understand the value of integrity, because I can't do this if I'm not always thinking about how people see me, how people feel about me, and what a kind of human being am I. Officiating is going to hold you to that standard. If you're trying to definitely move up, you're not going to make it if you can't understand the importance of how important integrity is. And so I am so grateful to officiating, because officiating, helped me even more with what my mom was always trying to teach me and tell me, be a good person, be a good human being. Yeah, 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 mama, I want to be a good human being. And then you start getting into some of this business and oh no, now I understand. And officiating will definitely challenge your integrity if you're not ready to be the best person you can be, because you can't work at the high level
Cannot.
for too long, and eventually something will sneak up on you and catch you if you're not doing it right. So I just admire having the business. I fell in love with it. I was honored to have an opportunity to serve on the NASO board. I mean, people from great people, all of you guys coming from different parts of sports, NFL, volleyball, soccer, all those different types of things. I never would have met, these great people in different sports and learning about what other sports do. So, and then all those sports, integrity. You got to have it in all of them. It's not like just the NFL or Major League Baseball. It's in volleyball, it's in soccer, it's in all those sports. So serving on the national level with you and great people, I got to learn, man, this is not just about football or basketball, the sports. This is about all sports. And you get to see that, in all the sports, not just and for me, I know a little bit more now about, you know, you know, what you do for other sports, but I never would have gotten to know that had I not had the honor to serve on the NASO board. So whenever I'm done, I can look back and say, I was proud, and I'm glad officiating has been part of my life, because it's definitely helped me even be a better person and stay and keep working at it and understanding the value of what integrity really means, and why I need to continue to keep pushing that on young people to help them understand it'll help you in life if you have these certain characteristics about yourself.
And you hit on such a great point about being on a board or going to the NASO summit. Even when you look at it, you got hockey officials and volleyball officials and rodeo officials and spirit officials, and there's, every official you could think of all together, and all their sports are different and everything has its own idiosyncrasies. But then when you strip it all away, it's all just officials and it's all officiating, and there is that common thread, brotherhood, sisterhood, and it's all linked together through integrity and being guardians of the game and keepers of fair play and all of those things. So when you could sit around and talk about rules and not understand the rules of rugby, but you understand each other as officials because of that bond. And I think that's what's so special about officiating, that, and it transcends whatever sport you're working. And I think that it's so cool to be in those conversations with people where you're like, yeah, I don't have a clue what you're talking about because I've never watched a cricket match, but
Right.
there's officials there too. So I
Right.
just thinking about the common thread and how so much of that is really hinging on integrity and honesty and being good people. And I think you brought up the issue of like background checks. I think maybe the common sports fan doesn't even understand how involved that is and how deep those background checks are, because they want people who are sound human beings out there officiating. And I don't know if everybody understands that there is that level of kind of dive on people who are officiating, but it's something that people should know. They're not just pulling people off the street to go work games. These are people who are vetted and trained and trusted. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great point.
Yeah.
And you've kind of talked about this a little bit, but if you could dive in a little bit more, what advice do you have for officials and potential officials? So if there's people who haven't yet taken the dive, um, what advice do you have to them about being a person of integrity, and why is that important?
Well, I think their image, your image matters, and it'll do a lot for you in life. People have asked me this question over the years. Well, what are your goals? Most of everything I've done in life, it wasn't a goal. I was around good people who says, hey, are you interested in doing this? Hey, why don't you look at this? And I think that's the thing I would say, to young people about officiating. You're going to meet people from all across life. I've been on cruise with lawyers, doctors, mailmen, mailwoman. I mean, lawyers, every bankers. You think it's just officiating, then you find yourself sitting around a table with people with all different skill sets. Now these people become your friends. These are people you can ask questions. These are people you can start talking to. You know how many times people done got jobs? They were just officiating and then ran into somebody who said, hey, are you interested in this? Hey, I'll be a reference for you. Man, officiating, man, opens up opportunities and doors. It's not just officiating, it's networking. It's knowing people, getting to know the right people, good people, people with influence. So that's the thing when I'm talking to young people and officials, hey, don't just look at it that you're just blowing a whistle. It's going to be more at the table for you than just the $80 you walk away with. It's the people you get to know. It's going to be people who can give you legal advice, medical advice, because they're coming from all over, professional people, working people, blue collar people that do officiating. And so the thing I always, when I'm talking to young people or I'm talking to individuals about officiating, I'm like, man, I done been all over this country because of officiating. I travel East Coast, West Coast, North, South.
Seen it all.
And so, boy, we was in Denver, we were in Atlanta, we were in California, places I never would have thought to go to. That was because of officiating. So what I would tell young people or people getting into officiating, it's more than officiating. You're
The
gonna
officiating is a small part of it. I mean,
oh,
honestly.
man, and you don't know that. All you see
No,
is, hey, yeah, we put on a striped shirt and got a whistle, and we go out there, and then
for
you
a
go start.
flag.
Yeah, you throw a flag, and that's it. No, no, there's a lot to it. There's a lot behind the scenes, a lot to learn, and a lot to gain from it. If you just, but you got to put in the work. The kids, the sport deserves the work. If you put the work in, I promise you, the work will come back. It will benefit you. It comes back. I can't tell you there are things I've got to do. I would not have done it had I not been into officiating. I wonder sometimes, like, man, what would life have been like had I not gotten into, like, what would I've done with my spare time? I
Right.
don't golf.
You would
You
have
know,
needed a hobby.
yeah. So I fell in love with officiating, and the people I've met, the opportunities I've gotten, the places I've had a chance to go. Man, that's even high school, getting to go to different communities, different cities, people seeing officials come in, waiting in the locker room, treating you right. I mean, it's just, that's what I would tell people about officiating. It's more than blowing a whistle.
Yes, it is. Yes,
It's
it
so
is.
much behind it. There's so much you learn. There's so many people you meet. There's so many opportunities. There's so many people you have an opportunity to ask questions about situations that can be very, very beneficial to you in your life.
Great answer. So we've got one final question for you, and it's one that we ask all of our guests. The From A to Zebra podcast has a mission each week to educate, elevate, and excite our listeners. What can you tell our audience about officiating that accomplishes this mission?
Well, officiating, it has high expectations. Officiating requires focus. It requires dedication. It requires you to be a good communicator, be fair, and be open. You have to be open. And when I say open, I mean open to listening. You have to be a good listener. And the thing that I have learned that officiating has really helped me in my personal life, in my professional life, and in life is don't take things personal. You can't take it personal. Uh, you're there to do a job. Officiating can be emotional when you're dealing with coaches and fans and people. That's part of the game. And you have to work the game and understand. Sometimes you hear things, sometimes people say things, but you and I know, Dana, you just learn, you don't take it personal. You deal with it when you have to deal with it. But the thing that I would say most is you have to be open-minded.
100%.
You have to be open-minded. And I tell people this all the time, I may not change my mind, but I certainly have to keep it open.
I love that. I love that.
I have to keep it open because once you shut down and you don't have an open mind, you've stopped learning and you've stopped mentoring. And I will always keep an open mind, at least to try to understand as best I can somebody else's position that's different from mine. And I credit a lot of that to the integrity, and I credit that to officiating. Officiating has allowed me a long time in my life. I'll be 62 years old this year. And I still can say I keep an open mind. And I think because of officiating has allowed me and forced me in some ways to keep an open mind. Because if you're going to work at the level you need to work at and be the official you need to be, you have to keep an open mind. Something happens, the next game, the next night, you got to move on.
Good answer. Great words. Robert Smith, this was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. It was so good to catch up with you. And anytime I talk to you, I always feel pretty fired up afterwards. So I want to go run through a wall now just because you always get me pumped up. So thank you so much for everything you do. Just when I thought of a topic for you, integrity was the one that it's you. It's who you are. You embody everything about it. And I just couldn't think of a better person to speak on that topic, and appreciate you. Hope you have a great season coming up. I'll be looking for you. I'm always watching for you. I'll be like, there he was. So it's I'm the weird person who watches all the games just for the officials, but it's okay. That's what I do. But Robert Smith, thanks for joining us. And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on the From A to Zebra podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and X for more information about the show. Robert can't check us out on any of those because he doesn't have social media, but I'm going to send him links so he has access to his own show. For our full library of podcasts from all seasons, you can check out the resources page of refreps.com. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When I fall without fail, when I land.
Be sure to hit that like button, follow, subscribe, and also catch From A to Zebra on Instagram at from_A_2_zebra, Facebook From A to Zebra podcast, and on X at From A to Zebra.